You ready?
Welcome, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone, or if it's still morning where you are, good morning. Welcome to H&D Abroad. I am Herman.
I'm Dee, and as you can see, I'm continuing to enjoy my beautiful house sit. And y'all, I had to wake up early today, so this live is going to be short, structured, and sweet. But we're going to get into some real details because the news is newsing.
Yeah.
But before we jump into what is your experiences and our experiences and the experiences of other Black and Brown people across the globe, their travel experiences. Hello, welcome. We are H&D Abroad. We are sharing our journey here on the internet. Our journey to moving abroad next year, and sharing all of the behind the scenes details of the decisions, talking to family members, supporting our children as we are saying we will not be in the same place as you
Shortly. Shortly and surely.
shortly and surely. And the goal is we're sharing our experience as a Black couple, and in the hopes of shedding light on both the male and female perspective or partners perspective of moving abroad, whether you are doing that for generational wealth, for your own well-being, your mental health, your physical health. But hey, if you like seeing the good, the bad, the ugly, the scouting trips, learning what we're learning as far as research, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you are notified when we go live, which is every Saturday. But also we encourage you to share if you are joining us from the future. Hello, welcome. We hope that the future is beautiful and bright, and that this channel will be something that helps to boost or buoy or enlighten you on how travel and moving abroad can complement the life that you want, and the life that you want to experience more abundantly, more, with more beauty, more color, more, a little bit of adventure. So, H, did you want to shout out the folks in the chat before we?
Before we start, because I like you, you like us, like this video.
Oh, yes.
Doesn't have to be later, has to be now. Hit the like button so that we know that, so that our content can be spread across the algorithm and other people can see us too. Remember that this is a conversation. So if you're in the chat with us right now, talk to us, ask questions, we'll talk back to you. If you're watching us from the future, hit hashtag replay in the comments. Give us some comments. We respond to all comments. So we got a bunch of fam here with us today. Hey, Abex girl, good to see you. Servant teacher Nikki, always good to see you. Hey, sis. Miss Aileen Brown is in the house. Good afternoon. The other half of servant teacher Nikki, Big Dave, calling from their page. All right. Kimmy Apple, good to see you.
Hey, darling.
Hey, and our family over at Living Loving Abroad. Got it back.
Okay, I expect to see a grocery store haul video soon.
Don't worry, y'all. I'm not gonna outdo me on haul videos. I'm working on mine today.
And I want to say thank you. So just before the live, I go outside and H has shipped my birthday present. I slightly unboxed it before we went live, so I want to say thank you, my darling, for my what looks like a miniature birthday cake. so I
Yes,
don't have
ma'am.
to order my own cake this year.
I don't believe in you ordering your
And
own
yeah, I was
cake.
gonna say you sent a beautiful flowers and cupcakes last year too. So I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to share with community and recognize. Look, travel isn't just a luxury. We are centering it for joy. We are going to places, um, finding peace, finding community. But along the way, there can be some speed bumps. So traveling while Black, the real travel cost. So when I was thinking about this morning, we were talking about, how do we center these Black stories that have been coming out in the news over the last few weeks, last few months, last few years. I pay the same price. I pay the same price to get in an Uber, to get on a train, on a plane, but it feels like there is more cost than we are calculating financially to being a part of the travel public. And as much as I want to share stories, I really want to center safety. I
Mhm.
know that safety is a big part of this channel and talking about, where and how is it even a possibility of staying safe? You know, eh, the Black Lives Matter and the whole, can I talk on the phone? Can I go to the park? Can I barbecue in the park with a permit? How can I move around in the world as a person of color without the added cost of being identified, easily identified, in situations that feel like they escalate beyond two people having a conversation, where people are getting booted off planes in handcuffs. So just keeping it real. So H, how'd you want to start?
Traveling while Black, traveling as people of color has always been a bit of a challenge. You know, as a Black man, I pulled over on the road several times, and for no other reason than I was identified in what I was driving or what I was. But when you are using commercial travel, and you are paying into a system, you have expectations about how things should go, how things should move. Um, and you mentioned everything from Uber to large traveling planes and trains, and in the recent months there have been several reports of um, airlines making travel difficult. Uh,
I want to make sure that we're also centering this is Black travel, domestic travel that we're probably that we're centering in this conversation.
Correct.
Yeah. So, and the incidents that we are going to be mentioning are also incidents that happened in the US. So, outside of that, I haven't had a lot of international travel experience overall. I mean, and even another caveat, H, I think we probably want to say is, look, 99% of the time, I'm not having any incidents. Um, but as a Black woman with natural hair,
I was gonna say that. Mm-hmm.
TSA, what am I keeping in my locks? Apparently, I can keep a lot. I must have a pot of gold in my locks. I don't care if I put them up, if I have them down, if I have hairpins, if I take them out, and so we're talking about kind of the full travel experience and not just when I get on a plane, like we're talking about today. I also, H, I do want to mention before you start, there's some tactics that I think we have attempted to use as the traveling public of the diaspora that I think are also a part of this conversation that really I don't think has been an appropriate barrier for us. It doesn't matter if we travel first class.
Mm-hmm.
Incidents are happening to
Mm-hmm.
us in first class. I think now, I mean, I'm going all the way back to college. Even when my parents, my first airplane trip to Disney, my parents, you dressed a certain kind of way. If you have gone, if you are from the South, I don't know the North because I wasn't raised up North, but in the South, you went to the doctor, you went to the dentist, you went anywhere where there were an opportunity to get services. You went in your best attire. When we traveled to California, my first year of college, the requirement was that we dress in professional attire. So our entire choir were in suits and ties and dress suits. I was in whatever that tweed
Oh,
and
wow.
a pair of cream slacks and one of those crisscross professional blouses traveling to California, and there were over 50 of us. It was obvious we were college students, but we had to look a certain kind of way because we wanted to be treated a certain kind of way. But that doesn't always keep us safe. We talk about speaking clearly, speaking in respectful tones, really trying to de-escalate. Y'all, we have tried all those things.
Yeah,
Does it always work?
and I want to say I feel some kind of way about that because outside of that, I mean, when sports, really, 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 as the increase in the 80s of black players and the dominance of black players in sports, then all of a sudden they changed to they had to come down the runway to their locker rooms in certain clothes, and they'd be dressed a certain way, and you start dictating how I have to look for you to feel comfortable, for you to feel safe, and how I have to speak. uh, and all of a sudden this is what's okay. That goes back to the tipping of the hat stuff and wearing a hat and taking a hat off in the room. Those standards that dictate what somebody else feels is etiquette for me to be appropriate in a space. And again, this is dealing with that. So we'll share a few stories to kind of highlight the variances of that, because we're not just talking about everyday people. Sometimes we're talking about up through celebrities. So about a month ago, American Airlines removed 8 black men from a flight.
Wait, go to the recent one first.
You want to start first? Oh, I was going to come up to that. I was going to move forward to that.
Okay.
Yeah. The 8 black men were removed from a flight. These 8 gentlemen did not know each other, were not sitting next to each other, were not told why they were removed from the plane. They just were all moved out to what's the area right outside called the jetway, and found they were all standing out there together. They were flying to, I believe, New York, and were told they were going to be put on a different flight. And when a different flight was not found, they were put back on that flight. One of the gentlemen said, I was embarrassed walking back onto the flight because then I was the black man who was holding up the flight, even though my being removed from the flight had nothing to do with me. Coming a little closer, Pepper from Salt and Pepper was removed from a flight, Southwest, after purchasing 2 seats for her one for her leg that she has a brace on, that she had to move to the emergency aisle, which clearly she wasn't going to be able to do, sitting in the emergency aisle. And so she was told she was being combative and was removed from the flight. And then just a couple of days ago, Terrell Davis, running back for the Denver Broncos, former running back for the Denver Broncos, was sitting with his family. He sitting with his son, his wife sitting across from him with his daughter, and trying to get service from the flight attendant. Had an incident. The flight attendant accused him of hitting him, and when they landed, he was arrested by FBI agents and removed from the plane in handcuffs. That terrifies me. Last year, Dee and I flew an international flight, and we were very few other Black people on that flight. Phrase that differently. There were very few other Black Americans on that flight. There were quite a few Africans on the flight, and to be honest, I felt a little uncomfortable about how that flight would go if I, fell asleep and my leg went in the aisle, or if I needed something and couldn't explain it. And those things make me this increase in flights, because when you're on a plane, there's nowhere to go. It's just your word against theirs a lot of times, and you're in a confined space, and that's not the same as being pulled over on the side of the highway. You're in flight. You can be detained in flight because there have been negative incidents in the past, but none of those negative incidents that I'm aware of have been instigated by a Black passenger. But Black passengers are reaping the repercussions of flying while Black.
So I see Kimmy Apple's a question at the top. What I feel like is I know what doesn't, that I don't know if what I'm doing is having a positive, neutral, or negative impact on my flying experience. What I do know is, with Peppa's incident, she purchased an extra seat, and you think that's what I need to do to make sure that I have an appropriate flying experience, because I know what my needs are. I choose an aisle seat because I choose a window seat because, and there's a point of frustration or friction with, okay, so if I'm going to travel, what do I do? And so this idea of, no fly list, could we create like the Green Book? Let's see, H, I think you found an NAACP.
The NAACP in 2017.
Put out a notice saying that there was a certain airline that, because of their history of incidents, that you may want to consider not flying with that airline. I think that over time we may have to go back to the Green Book concepts of, but that's not going to help me in a situation like Terrell Davis, when he's sitting with his children, he's interacting with the flight attendant from his description in a similar way as I would. Literally, I'm listening to his story and I put myself, when I've traveled alone or when I've traveled with my husband and children, that we typically sit like that, where, H and the boys will sit together, Jay and I will sit together, or, we separate so that we are protecting, or comforting or whatever, our young people traveling with us. But when I put myself in that situation and I say, I would have done the same thing, the horror of the outcome is, could I end up in a similar in a similar situation where he's saying, I had no idea. The 8 men who were asked to get off the flight said, we had no idea why we were asked to leave the plane. Terrell Davis said, I had no idea why this FBI agent approached me and told me, don't fight it. I had no idea. I mean, like, or you're proposing, the flight attendant is proposing to Pepper, I see you in a brace. The first question that they ask you when you're sitting on an emergency row is, can you perform the duties? Is obvious. I can't open no door. I have a disability. You know, I have a compromised ability in this space. What do we do? So we're crowdsourcing, y'all. I see some reasons in the chat for why things, you know, why things might be happening in this way. But if you feel like you found an opportunity, this conversation is to share for those who are wanting to figure out, why do Black people always feel like they got to superimpose themselves? Because look, I got to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. This concept of Project 2025 is bringing a lot of fear to people, because the idea that the government would allow a shift in power simply due to the potential person in the presidency. You know, I mentioned this to you a lot. You know, my concern that they'll find ways to either stop us from coming back if we have visas, or force us to come back. And the the rise of potential violence and conflicts that happen because of political views, and happening in spaces that are meant to be, for all practical purposes, safe spaces, because they're places of travel, you know, incidents of moving from one place to the next, then make this how do I do this in a way that is reasonable, that is safe for me? If I can't get on a plane without expressing my disbelief or my discontent about something, my you know, this gentleman was disrespectful to Terrell Davis's sons, and he did not address the disrespect. He addressed, hey, you didn't hear them, they were trying to speak to you. And he did something that I would have done, and he made physical contact with the person, and the person turned it into a "you hit me." He said in his interview, I felt powerless. And that is a demoralizing feeling, because there's nothing I can do. You know, I got, and that is a constant conversation. Those 8 gentlemen, you know, they're feeling guilt about something that wasn't their fault. And we're getting, what is the joining together of our people? How do we, in a way, and you use the Green Book to say, these are resources that are safe to use. You know, how do you boycott a whole airline? How do you boycott several airlines? You know, you're talking about putting up these situations where you're saying we as a people have to make bigger decisions. But it's more than just boycotting the bus going across town and we carpool. You're talking about people's business and lives, and we're trying to find a way to be safe and still accomplish the things we're trying to accomplish.
Yep. Listening to his Terrell and his wife's interview with Robin Roberts, and all of these incidents we have linked in the description. You know, there's a sense of not just what the impact was for himself, but his wife talked about watching her husband be put in handcuffs right next to his sons.
Mhm.
And their dad has no idea why he's being put in. If this incident has not happened to you, I don't even want to imagine what it would be like as a wife to then she's trying to then divide her attention between their kids are like what 10, 12.
Yeah.
She's
9.
trying to not, yeah. So she's trying to figure out what's going on with her husband, gather her children because no one, she knows if he's out of her sight, you know, the things that go through your mind. So as much as I'm not trying to allow this to be a trauma trigger conversation, I really want this to center on empowerment.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I saw in Terrell's incident specifically is he said that another passenger said, I saw what happened.
Mhm.
Can I be a positive witness to what is happening to someone and be open to speaking up? I mean,
Yeah. Last.
what changed the tide of police violence for those of us uh, 50 and up was watching
Mhm.
Rodney King. Watching Rodney King. And so one of the things that I think we wanted to center is okay, so if I'm in a situation or I witness a situation, I am a witness for whatever that can mean. I am a witness. Could I stand with someone that is experiencing that? Um,
Yeah.
the
That's,
other, oh, go ahead.
no, I think that's a big point because um, supporting each other, regardless of race, supporting each other in that situation, I think is important to help move a situation out of the danger zone. Dr. Kimani Norrington Sands on her channel, Lifting as We Climb. This past Sunday, she interviewed 4 gentlemen about toxic work environments, and one of the young men was a doctor. And he talked about being on a flight, and they made an announcement that there was a medical emergency. They knew there was a doctor on board. Could he come and check on the situation? And when he walked to the back, the flight attendant told him, "We need everybody to sit down, sir. I need you to have a seat." He said, "You just called for the doctor. I'm the doctor." And it was a mother and a child, and the child had eaten some bad food and was having a reflux reaction. And while he was checking the child, the flight attendant said to him, "We have 2 nurses on board, and they're going to come check on the child. You can have a seat." And the mother said, "You're a doctor. I want you to see my child." And the mother gave him the respect due on that flight to be able to provide the services. These incidences of disrespect, um, uh, because the natural reaction is to be upset, to react to that. I mean, Terrell Davis was a lot kinder than I was. And he talked about the guy slamming down the cups, onto the tray in front of the kids. There is a natural reactionary gut
Go into
reaction,
protection mode. Yeah.
especially when you talk about your children and your family, um, as well as sometimes your pride overall. And so we were trying to think about what ways do we deal with these situations and still, as much as possible, stay within a safety zone. And so we have a couple of things, but we're open to suggestions from you all as well. One of the first things we talked about was
Our phones are now our go-to. Whether that is having your emergency contacts identified in your phone. I don't, okay, so I have an iPhone. Yes, I'm that girl. But you can you can you can place a special emergency contact asterisk. So go into your settings,
Correct.
and identify emergency contacts, so that if someone has access, so that people will know who you need called in an emergency. Um, there are a lot of videos on how to do that for the iPhone and the Android, but that brought me a sense of peace. I mean, and I'm not just talking about, hey, if I get into an incident, I'm just talking about like practical safety tips.
Mm-hmm.
These are practical. Like if I had a health emergency, I'd still need to have this contact list. I'm not trying to build something that is only applicable to safety incidents when I'm in using a travel modality. But also having those emergency contacts know that you are traveling, those emergency contacts understanding, okay, so I'm starting here on this date, I'm on these flights, add them, give them that information, so that in an emergency you get detained or whatever, they at least can know, okay, these are these initial steps, or these are the predictable steps. So have your people and have them easily identified in your phone.
And as much as is necessary, because sometimes it's just private time, but as much as necessary, have someone who knows that you're traveling.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Bayesian Alpha 4. Yes. Somebody you didn't share if you don't have nobody, you gotta establish some trust somewhere.
Somebody needs to know where you were headed and where you're going. So I think that's just a good safety thing, even if you're hopping in your car and driving across the country, that you have someone who to whom you are accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call you every 4 hours. I'll call you every 24 hours. You expect to hear me at 8 o'clock every morning, whatever, just something that so people know you're if they haven't heard from you in the designated time, they need to check in with you. And that's just, I think, good travel safety regardless.
Mm-hmm.
This is what saved a lot of people over the last several years, but it's also unfortunately not always been recording the incident that you're in has to some degree reduced some of the aggressive behavior that has gone towards some people, not always, or at the very least has recorded the incident when it's, kind of that your word against mine. The big company versus the little guy kind of thing, that there's some way for you to say, here it is right here. I didn't make it up. I did not, exaggerate it. This is what happened. You can evaluate it for yourself. In some situations, and when Dee and I were talking earlier, she made a good point. In some situations, you may need to just have audio. And that's just because there have been incidences where people who were recording, the person opposite of them felt instigated. And instead of decreasing their aggression, it increased, and putting that person in danger. And you have to kind of gauge that situation truly for yourself. But I think recordings have helped.
Just for the documentation purpose.
Correct.
Just for documenting. I was in the car the night the guy pulled you over saying that you ran the stop sign. There was nobody for miles. It was pitch black and he pulled you over. Like, you're thinking, hey, when you're on an airplane, I'm thinking about where I'm going and all the good food and fun. It's really joyous. This is disruptive to that thought pattern, and I have to interject this into my travel preparation. Like, who else? Ain't nobody else doing that. It makes me angry. It makes me, I'm frustrated. And to be frank, I feel humiliated that
Correct.
I have to be relegated to, I can't fully experience joy. I pay the same price to get on this plane, but apparently my ability to engage in this experience is leveraged because I am easily identified as a woman. I am easily identified as a brown person. And so I feel like I have to at least have some minimal things that are quickly accessible. That's why we said it needs to be on your home screen. Okay, because if you gotta unlock your phone with
Hunt
6
for it.
digits and then hunt for it, you know, it defeats the purpose. And so making sure that you have quick access to that, or SOS, which, you know, if you have an iPhone, it's, you know, 5 taps of the power button automatically, what do you call that? Automatically activates that service. So, and there's some ways that you can quickly access video recording the same way that came out after Sandra Bland's incident several years ago. So we have to find a way. If someone doesn't step forward, or there needs to be corroboration of your story, audio and visual recordings, I feel like are a path. But I'm so frustrated. I mean, and we're talking, these are the incidents. Terrell Davis and his wife said, I've got an attorney that's going to take care of this. I haven't gotten an apology based on the GMA time stamp of that video. I haven't gotten a personal acknowledgement, but I had to step forward because my celebrity status didn't protect me. Other people, it's not believable. But when someone that is very recognizable, we have a complete, you know, what do you call that? Media history of Terrell Davis. And that he says, I have to step forward because of people that are not empowered to be able to step forward. So please, this is the other one I did not tell you, Herman, but the other thing that please do this. If you have an incident, document it. So not just the video and the audio, but I'm saying there are customer surveys. There's a way for you to, what do you call that? To write your incident and have it addressed. A lot of organizations, because Kimmy Apple is talking about a NICU incident, and that's what made me think about it. Those customer satisfaction surveys for hospitals are the Joint Commission that gives hospitals licenses, and those licenses, if they lose them, they don't get Medicare payouts from the federal government. They can cut off those funding sources because of how, if they begin to have more and more incidents like that, you have to do that with the airlines, with Uber, if you have an incident happen, sit down. Let's see. So here are the keys that you need to have. What time was it? Who was present? Okay. Who was present? What was said? What actions were taken? You have to give that context. I said so-and-so, they said so-and-so, it went like this. Thoughts and feelings, emotions, not so much to bear they want to know what exactly happened. Because if you don't document it, it doesn't have, we would not have some of the safety features of, say, an Uber, unless people step forward and said, you know, I had inappropriate content, what do you call it, interaction with the driver, or drivers saying, you know, the passengers were disruptive, you know, to me doing my job. If it is not documented, it didn't happen. If you don't put it forward to these organizations, they can ignore it. But trust me, those customer surveys are reviewed. Many times they're reviewed by stakeholders, they're reviewed by like the FAA and other you know, other oversight boards. And so we have to speak up.
It is, sadly, we've gotten used to, I walk through to TSA, I may have a negative incident. Sadly, we've gotten used to, okay, this was just a one-off. You know, maybe it just happened this time. Maybe it was just this one guy. When you remove 8 black men unassociated from each other, it's not a basketball team who were together, a football team who were together. These are 8 random black men who were the only black men on that flight, and they were all removed later on because a flight attendant said they smelled bad. That was what was reported. Okay, and they did not hear that information until later. They didn't know why they were removed. Be mindful of the environment that you're in, the space that you're in, and how you travel. Unfortunately, there are people who wish to instigate trouble, and there are people who carry with them. You are traveling in a situation with people who have their own ideas, their own traumas, their own views politically, their own moral values, their, you know, about whatever is going on in their life. And one of the things that I know from the behavioral science background that we have is sometimes you can trigger in somebody something that has nothing to do with you directly. But they have this overarching belief, this overarching feeling, this whatever. I used to tell the kids when they were little, sometimes you just have to walk away. In a situation when you're on a plane or on a train, that isn't always possible. But sometimes you may have to get up and say, I'd like to be moved. I'd like to, you know, I need, you know, to request safety. I need to, whatever. Do what you need to do to protect yourself and those who travel with you in this situation. The possibility that this can become an increasing issue is disturbing. It was disturbing as I was listening through these videos, and we've put them in the description. As I was listening through these videos and the traveling, we're talking about we're talking about getting on 10-hour flights
Or longer.
Or longer. You know, being in foreign airports we were in the airport for how long? 8 hours.
What, Istanbul?
Yeah.
Oh, it was overnight.
Yeah. Okay. You know, people's perception, and this has been a problem for a long time, but people's perception on what is good and what is bad. Yeah, this is another one.
Yeah.
They look like they smell like weed. I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, what does that interpret? I mean, how do you judge what something might be because you assume, you know, you have to speak up for yourself. You know, one of the things I said to Dee, and I'm going to say it because I think it ought to be addressed. You know, I said we're kind of deciding on safety features. I said, you know, avoid further aggressive behavior. And she said, you know, the bar is kind of low for us with that. Different people interpret what aggressive is. Terrell reached back and tapped the guy on the shoulder and said, hey, could you give us some ice? And the guy said, "Don't hit me." I was listening to a radio talk show several years ago, black DJ. He had a black man on and a white woman on, and they were having an opposing view conversation. And as the gentleman got worked up, excited in the conversation, he did what black folk do. He got a little loud. He got a little animated. He clearly wasn't angry, but he was a little agitated, but he was enthusiastic about what he was sharing. And she said, "Why are you shouting at me? Why do you have to talk so loud?" And it was in a
That's so gaslighting.
way that I think, yeah, I think at that point he shifted gears. And I think sometimes we got to give back the same, bring it right back down. When my father was really mad at me when I was a kid, I knew because he got quieter and quieter. And sometimes your anger needs to go quiet instead of giving people reason to say, "Oh, man, they were shouting, they were throwing stuff, they were, the typical Mr. Willie at the end of the day getting fired." You got to. And I hate that we have to. What's the phrase? Code switch in order to be okay, to be upset, to feel safe. But in an environment where you don't have an opportunity to step back, I want to encourage you to do what's necessary to be safe first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the incidents that have been recent and that we're describing and that are in the description box are all domestic flights.
There's one that's international, but I'm still reviewing that one from a year ago. But the majority of them have been domestic to this point.
Wow.
Wow, that's deep.
Wow. What I'm hopeful of, when we sat down and said we wanted to bring this to our audience, it was not to rehash negative incidents. It really is about, we were just on a live with Love Park Connection, and talking about safety. And this is an important part of the travel and move abroad conversation is what is safety is individually determined. How my male partner, Black American male partner views safety is different. I was just like, as long as they're not bothering me, I probably would have told the kids, "He's not paying no attention. I'll get you some ice when we get off the phone." When we get off the plane. But that truncates my full experience that I deserve. And I have to push past. I want to create a comforting environment for others. I hope you get the anger that I have to push back into a space to say, I don't want to cause a commotion. I don't want to ask for nothing. There's a Facebook group that I'm in, a Black travel group, and we were laughing about what do you do if the flight attendant passes you and you've been asleep and you missed your drink and snacks? What would you do? Some people were just like, "Well, that's why I bring my own snacks." And then other people say, "I paid for that cup of soda, some ice, and them pretzels. I want my due."
Give me my cranberry juice.
I'm not talking about reparations. I'm just talking about, hey, it's okay for me to ask for those things, especially if, we're not in turbulence and we have, we're not in a descent. I can go back and ask for those things, and I can feel okay saying I have just as much right to speak up as others. Y'all, I was on a flight coming to this house sit. apparently they changed the planes and the seat assignments when when you do the 24-hour when you do 24 hours before your flight, when you confirm, they gave us the wrong seats. So when we got to the airport, it populated, I guess, based on the number of travelers, they got us sent a smaller plane. So our seat assignments were changed. And so some people had I always take a screenshot. I was like, my seat says so and so, ain't that many seats on this plane. And she was like, oh, refresh your app and it'll tell you which seat you're assigned to. It happened to another other of us. And the flight attendant gave the person a first class seat. And they said, I don't want to move. I don't want to have to move my stuff. And then after like 2 or 3 minutes, they said, oh, well, it is a first class seat. I guess I'll go on. Like, what? Like, I'm just trying to not be accosted and you getting a first class seat and you saying, I don't want to be inconvenienced. My safety, your safety is not an inconvenience. Mm-hmm. A request for equitable services is not outside of what you should be able to ask. If you are in a part of your life where you are pushing back on, I want to make myself not a instigator in a situation where I'm learning to speak up for myself, I'm not trying to create a comfortable environment for you. I'm trying to live safely and comfortably in my own self. Please take this as your permission. Write yourself a permission slip. As Alicia Renee says, if this is the permission slip you need, go ahead and write it for yourself today. I am fully human and I deserve to be treated with respect. And I will be acknowledged respectfully because I put out loving kindness, because I put out respect. I speak respectfully. I enter these spaces knowing how to operate properly. And I do so in good faith that will come back to me. But when it goes sideways, I'm ready. And I'm thankful for more people sharing their experiences.
Yeah.
And that folks are unfortunately coming away from these incidences with emotional and personal injury or more.
Yeah, my color does not diminish the level of customer service I expect. Does not diminish the level of product that I purchase. I paid for it. I want all of it. And I will not be afraid to speak up for it and demand it. Not request it, demand it. I'm frustrated enough that I pay for a flight, and after I paid for a flight, then I got to pay for the seat. I was just like, if I already paid for the flight, then what am I?
Yeah, we're just telling ourselves we like discount airlines. Okay.
Okay. I mean, I just, why is my
great? This is a great comment. If you all know Stephen, Stephen and LaShawn living, loving abroad. Stephen is 6.
No, Steve about 5'4". No.
He's well over 6 feet. Our physiology can make us vulnerable.
But it shouldn't. Okay?
But it shouldn't.
And yeah, and the fact that he has to say that he has to temper his emotions, temper his displeasure. I really think it's time out for that.
Yeah.
I really think it's time out. Yeah, big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think it's time out. But at the same time, your safety has to be your first priority. So evaluate what if you have an incident. Make sure you know or find out immediately the ways you can address it with the company, the regulation boards, whoever you need to let know of. Lack of celebrity does not stop you from doing exactly what Terrell did and what these 8 gentlemen have been doing in their suit. Because if we don't stop it, if we don't address it, not only will it continue, it will get worse. Not can get worse, it will get worse. And the political situation of our country is dictating some really bad times ahead. Win or lose.
Yeah.
There's bad times ahead. So
we appreciate you, Kimmy Apple. We're just sharing what's on our minds, what we think should be a part of the conversations. I want to say thank you to Krishan of Blacks at Global for talking about this. There are a lot of people in the travel, move abroad space that are making sure that folks are aware and that it should never hold you back. With a passport,
we are global citizens.
We are global citizens with the ability and means to travel. Plane, train, automobile, all of those transportation methods are open to us. We expect you to fully engage this life out of joy and love and never for fear. So that's what I got, Davis.
That's all I got.
All right.
We appreciate you all dropping in the chat with us. If you're watching from the future, remember #replay in the comments. Give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback. Throw some more safety things in the comment section. And you all enjoy the world and be safe simultaneously. We're H&D Abroad. Absolutely. I'm Herman. That's the beautiful D. We'll be back soon. We'll see y'all soon.
Bye for now.